Hey, what's up? It's Kat. We have a lot to unpack in today's video. We are going to talk about Without Forever, the Babylon MC fifth book, final installment by L.J. Stock and Victoria L. James. There's so much to talk about between the series and the two authors that wrote it together. And I'm such a fan of both of theirs. They write separately. This is their series together, and I just adore them and their writing. This was a no-brainer to read this book. I actually got this book as an advanced reader copy, which was super exciting. And just note to self that while I'm talking, if you haven't read the other books, these might be considered spoilers because there are 4 other books. So just so you know, I'm not going to give too much away. I don't like to give too many spoilers. I like to try to tell you about the plot and what I liked about the book and the things that touched me and lines that I liked and all that kind of thing. But for you, if you haven't read it, go back and read the other 4 books and then read this book because, oh my gosh, what a ride, what a journey. I'm going to cry. I can feel it already. When I was making my notes, I was tearing up reading it. I finished reading it about, I think, 2 weeks ago now, by the time this video comes out. I couldn't even talk about it for like 2 days and just kept kind of ruminating over it. And yeah, and then as these two authors do often, they have a playlist that goes along with the book, and I love that. I've talked about that before. And I started to listen to playlists. I had to stop. I couldn't. I was crying. Happy, awesome tears. Sad tears because it's over. Sad tears because I love this story, and I love the hounds, and I love Drew and Ayda, and I just feel like so connected to their world. So to know that this was going to be the end for them was very sad, even though I completely understand, right? But a true love story never does end, does it? So let's start unpacking it. Like I said, 4 other books. Without Consequence is the first book. Without Mercy is the second book. Without Truth is the third book. Without Shame is the 4th book. And now we have Without Forever. But there's one point in this book where they bring all 4 of those titles into this one paragraph, and it was freaking amazing. One of my favorite parts. But let's start talking about the main characters, which are Drew Tucker. Drew Tucker. Oh my God, he's honestly, I'm like a crushing schoolgirl when I talk about him. And then Ayda Hannigan. And if we go back a little bit to the beginning so I can give you a little bit of backstory. The first book starts out with Ayda and her brother Tate, and their parents have died, and Ayda has assumed the parental role. Her brother is, quite a few years younger, 5 years maybe-ish, years younger than her, and her parents have died, and she's got to step into the role. So she kind of, lets go of everything she had going on in her life and comes home and starts taking care of him. And as you can imagine, that's really heavy. And, Tate's kind of starts to rebel against, he loves his big sister, but he's, a teenage guy and, whose parents aren't around. So he's kind of getting a little bit wild, and, he ends up getting into a situation with Drew and his motorcycle club. And Drew had just gotten out of jail. That's how the first book starts, with Ayda and Tate in that situation, and then Drew having literally just getting out of jail and kind of going on a bender. And he's just trying to get back into life, and he's drinking like crazy, and he's they're trying to kind of initiate him back in. He's the president of the MC, so he's come back in. And anyway, it kind of starts out like full on right away. And so you get a little bit of a soft spot with Drew, and he decides, instead of like roughing Tate up, he brings him home and he drops him off to Ayda. And she kind of walks out of the house and she's like, what the hell, you know, and she just goes toe to toe to him right away. And Drew's MC is known in their town of Babylon, Texas. You know, they are the Hounds of Babylon, and she is not afraid of them. And she's kind of putting on a front. She feels like she's had to step into this role of parent, caretaker, and she's just a young woman herself. But she's like, what's going on? And, you know, it's an enemies to lovers kind of situation there. And then there's, like I said, 4 more books, and there is nothing soft about Drew Tucker and his motorcycle club. They are typical rough men, but they also hold themselves to a certain standard, and there's certain things they don't allow. There's certain things that are so cliche about them. But there's something you really like about them. And, you know, I don't know anything about motorcycle clubs, but they have this, you know, kind of loyalty and fidelity with one another, and taking care of each other, and family is important. And it doesn't matter if it's blood family, if you're in the club, and, you know, they expect a certain, you know, relationship with you, and they will give you that back in return. And it's, you know, it's really kind of an interesting situation. And, you know, Lou and Vic did a great job of you know, talking about all that and giving us that in their story. And, you know, I felt like I understood the Hounds, you know, through the books. And, you know, they weren't all bad guys. And, you know, there's kind of a running theme that, you know, they are very rough, you know, men, but they keep getting put in these situations where they're like, you know, wrong time, wrong place, and it just kind of falls in their lap. And they've had these serious struggles, and, you know, these other motorcycle clubs are out for them, and there's violence, and there's, you know, just, you know, war going on. And, you know, that part makes these books kind of exciting. And, you know, it's just this whole other thing that I, you know, don't know anything about in my regular life, but written really well. I really enjoyed learning about them and that whole situation. I liked how they felt like, you know, the Hounds felt like they protect their town of Babylon. And, you know, there's a respect level, and, you know, how the mayor feels about them, and the police chief, and how, you know, they get really pissed when, you know, other clubs try to come in and disrupt the peace. And, you know, so anyway, I really like that part. You really get the full scope of what their club is about, and how they feel about where they live, and all that kind of stuff. Something that's very interesting that I thought with Drew and Ayda is Drew is really a rough guy, and unapologetically. And he's the MC president, and he takes that very seriously, and it's in his blood. His father was previous president, and he does not take it easy on Ayda. Like I said, it's kind of an enemies to lovers situation with them. And they, you know, it's not, they don't have hearts in their eyes when they look at each other. He's really rough with her, and he puts her in a situation when they first start out where, I mean, he's kind of a dick to her, you know, not kind of, he's a dick to her. He sees something in her, you know, of course, and he won't let anyone else touch her, but he won't touch her either. But she steps up to the plate, and it's something that he really admires about her, that he can't knock her down. I don't throw around the word, and I appreciate authors that don't throw around the words soulmates. You know, not every love story is, you know, everyone's a soulmate. I appreciate when there's angst, and that the characters have to go through something, you know, and Drew and Ayda go through a lot. And something that I really loved about their story, all 5 books, is that it takes you on such a journey with them, and the growth that me as a reader saw in them as characters through every single book, and how they just kind of up the ante every single book as writers, and how their love story is written just so beautifully. And by 3/4 of the way through Without Forever, I mean, I was a basket case 3/4 of the way through, because a lot of stuff goes down. I mean, there's a lot going down. There's a lot going on in these books. It's a very full-bodied stories and books. And 3/4 of the way through is when the tears started, and didn't stop until the end. Such a good thing. But going back to, they are literally soulmates. They just, the way they fit, and I think to be able to write that and have it be totally believable, and have me as the reader have my heart clenching and my throat closing and tears brimming my eyes for these 2 characters, and feel so incredibly connected to them, was just amazing. And they are soulmates. Book soulmates. You know, characters soulmates. If they were 2 people walking the face of the earth, I would want to know them. I would want to be around them, because they just are soulmates. And it was really something that I just felt it organically in my heart. And to be able to write that, I think, is something very special. One of the things that happens in this book is, and again, I'm going to try not to give you spoilers, but there's stuff that I want to talk about, that I feel like I have to talk about as part of the story. And, Ava thinks she's pregnant, and it's so sweet, because the evolution of Drew Tucker, and this hard, rough as nails, just steely biker, and how he becomes so incredibly tender and open to love with Ava, and Ayda, and how he feels about her. And then they discover, she's pregnant, and what comes over him, and the metamorphosis that he had already been through, and then that, and how that changes him, and how he looks at life from that way, from as, oh my God, I'm going to bring a child into this. And it was funny, but not. But he says to her at one point, he says, I need you to make a promise, and promise me that you'll follow through this to the end of your days. And I was like, oh boy, here we go, And he makes her promise that if something happens to him, that he'll get her and their baby out of Babylon. And it's this town that he loves and he protects, but he doesn't want this life for them. And that he chose the life that he has, and that she has to be in it because she wants to be with him. And he respects that, but he feels bad about that. And Drew also says about Ayda, and I'm going to read it because it was really sweet. He says, she was going to be a mother. I'd finally given her something good and pure, something untainted by my world. See? I mean, he has this incredible heart, and he's going through this change, and he realizes that as he figures out, oh my gosh, I'm going to be a father, even though he's the son of a president of the MC, and he's the president, I don't think he wants that for his child. But yet that's his life, and that's his brotherhood. But he doesn't see it as something good. And he kind of looks down at himself about that he's this, can he be a good father with the life that he lives? Him being a father makes him crave, I think, peace in his world. And I've talked about the change that he goes through in all these books and how him becoming a father is even more change and evolution. And as I think we all, as we become, older and wiser and in our relationships, and, if we are parents, I'm a parent, that changes us. And I liked being able to see the change that, Ava, I understood because I'm a woman, she's a woman. But to see Drew, was really cool. And it really made him extra swoony. And I have to say that in the beginning, when I first read the first book, I liked him. I grew to like him. I identified with I identified with Ayda. But he took me a minute because he's kind of brutal. But I don't know. He's not like a bully, but yet he's a bully. I don't know. But it took me a minute. And then by the second book, I had a crush. And now I can honestly say fully engulfed obsession with Drew Tucker. And I'm not ashamed about it. At one point, Drew talks about that he's tired. He's exhausted. He's exhausted from his life. He's exhausted being himself. And again, the change that he goes through is really incredible. And he's exhausted being the leader of the club. He just wants peace. And this child really brings out the need for that in his heart and in his soul. There's some really great relationships between the other characters. The way that the hounds take in Ayda's younger brother Tate, and how Drew takes to him, and he realizes the responsibility that he kind of has for him as her younger brother. And also the whole, does he want to bring him into this type of lifestyle, but yet seems to take to the lifestyle, and he's building relationships with some of the other guys, and I really liked that, and the relationship that Ayda has with some of the other guys, and in particular, she has a really sweet relationship with Harry, who is a character that is extremely special. Drew and Harry have an amazing relationship, and Harry is a very important man to Drew, and he is somebody that when you read all the books, you'll see the complete soft spot that everyone has for Harry. And then also she has a very special relationship with Deeks, and he's kind of, Harry and Deeks, I would say both are kind of father figures to her, kind of best friend, older brother, but yet they're very protective of her. In particular, Deeks is really, I just loved reading their time together. And, it's funny that Drew observes that, and he's so thankful for it. And, he's possessive of her, so he wants to make sure that, they're older guys, they're, older gentlemen, but, it's very sweet. And Deeks has his longtime girlfriend, who's a very sweet, very much best friend, motherly, older sister kind of relationship with Ayda. And she kind of goes to Autumn about stuff, and Drew knows that Autumn can kind of teach Ayda the ropes. And at one point, they don't want to tell anyone she's pregnant yet, because she's newly pregnant and she's had some trauma and she's nervous, and so she needs to go to the doctor and all that. She's taken the test, but whatever. And then through one reason or another, she's talking to Autumn, and it kind of it happens. Autumn finds out, and Autumn doesn't have children of her own. I don't think so. But, she's thrilled and she's really happy, and she's, and Ayda's got a lot going on, and, and it's funny because she's kind of confused, and like nervous, of course, all of that. And Autumn, Ayda's talking about how like she gets really excited, when she thinks about, a certain kind of excited, when she thinks about Drew and him holding their baby. I mean, as a woman, we all know this, right? When we see our, significant other, our husbands or whatever, at least for me, holding, a baby, or, when my husband held our children, and, seeing that whole other side to them is very sweet and very, get your heart pumping. And she's talking about that with Autumn, and she's like, and Autumn says, there's no shame in that, you're into Daddy Drew. And I thought, so am I'm into Daddy Drew too. That is a nice scene I want to see. Something that I loved was Drew talks about his birthday is coming up, and it's June 3rd, and I was literally reading this on the first couple days in June, and I'm sitting there and it's June 2nd and I'm reading, and then, he says, he talks about being born June 3rd, and I was like, oh my gosh, it was so funny. That's never happened to me before. And then he said he's a summer child with a winter heart. And I was like, oh, Drew, it's okay. That's okay. You can have it. That's okay. It was really funny. So that when you're reading this, that it wouldn't be a book without some drama, and drama follows the hounds. So you're kind of reading, and it's really lovely, and it's so beautifully written. And I mean, I can't believe I just said lovely when I was talking about Motorcycle Club, but you know what I mean? Like, they're just amazing writers. And Without Forever picks up right away after Without Shame. It literally is like the next scene practically. So there's going to be drama. Things were not completely, I mean, they were wrapped up, but you kind of know that there's going to be more. And so then, you start Without Forever, and, you're getting this kind of, part to Drew where he's like, I just can't do this anymore. And then, so something's going to happen. And I got to the chapters where the stuff happens, and it was not easy to read them. And they were very emotional, and they were so, I hate to say perfect, because they were brutal. And it's a really big thing. I don't have the words. See, this is why I'm not a writer. I don't have the words, but it's really basically, their world falls apart, and you don't know what's going to happen, and you don't know who's going to die, and you don't know who's going to live, and you don't know what's going to happen. And it's just like, literally like at the end of Fireworks, the finale, where it's just and they're just going off constantly. That's literally the last quarter of the book, more half the book or so. It's just, you just keep getting these things fired at you, and it's just the culmination of their whole story literally being laid at Drew's feet, and him trying to fight through it, literally, figuratively, everything. And I just hoped and prayed and crossed my fingers while I was crying that there was going to be a certain ending. And Victoria and Lou gave us a picture of a gentleman at one point, and was like, when things get hard, look at this picture, or they said something like that. And I thought to myself, as I'm crying reading, oh my gosh, that picture. And I put my Kindle down, and I went through my Facebook feed to find, that picture. And I thought, oh, and I had gotten to the point where I didn't know if things were going to be okay. And that picture helped me go back and read that book and finish that book, because look at me, I'm getting tears now. it just is so emotional, and it's so heavy, and it's so beautiful. And they, they had this playlist that goes along with it, and I had started to read it, just the songs that were on it, and I had to stop because I listened to one of the songs, and I think it's called The End by Pearl Jam. Ugh, forget it. I couldn't, no. And then towards the end of this book, Drew and Ayda are talking about this song, and it's called, I have to wipe my tears, sorry. It's called, what is it called? Oh yeah, Tangled Up in You by Stained. Forget it. I don't think, and see, I can't even do it right now. I don't think I will ever be able to hear that song and not think about this story. It's just, I can't even, it was beautiful. And I'm so sad it's over. And I so highly recommend it. It is amazing. And you have to read it. These authors, it's amazing that they share the words that they do. And they're so talented and so worthy of all the success that they have going for them. And, this is why I read, for stories like this. And this is why I want to do this channel, for books like this that I want to talk about, and I want to get the word out there. Oh, see, I can't. So I super, super, such high props and such high praise to Victoria and Lou about this book. It was amazing. Do yourself a favor, get the whole series, read the whole series. It's going to take you on the most amazing journey. I don't think that I could do it justice talking about it in this video. I know this video is really long. I super appreciate if you stayed till the end. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure you go get the series. You're going to love it. And I absolutely cannot wait for more from both Lou and Victoria. I hope you have an amazing day. Thanks for stopping by. I really appreciate it. See you soon.